Who's next? Tony in Edmonds, Washington. Welcome to the EIB Network. Great to have you here, sir.
Hi, Rush. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Hey, I was wondering how you would recommend the Republicans' candidates' campaign at this point in regard to governing once we take control in January 13. I mean, we're going to be out of cash. This $2.4 trillion debt increase that we gave this guy.
You're not going to believe my answer.
Yeah, how we're going to be burned through all that. What's going to happen here?
You're not going to believe my answer. Ron Paul has a good idea.
Really?
I knew you wouldn't believe it. Yeah. Kevin Williamson, writing at The Corner, National Review Online. It's actually a Politico report. Ron Paul is about to show the Republican presidential field what a serious fiscal reform plan looks like. He is going to propose $1 trillion in real spending cuts. He is going to propose immediately freezing spending by numerous government agencies back to 2006 levels, the last time Republicans had complete control of the federal budget. Beyond that, the EPA would see a 30% cut. The Food and Drug Administration would see a 40% cut. Foreign aid would be zeroed out immediately. And he would take an axe to Pentagon funding for wars. Medicaid, food stamps, family support programs, the Children's Nutrition Program would all be block granted to the states and removed from the mandatory spending column of the federal budget. Some functions of eliminated departments such as Pell Grants would be continued elsewhere in the federal bureaucracy. The federal workforce would be reduced by 10%. The president's pay would be cut to $39,336. That's a level that Ron Paul says is approximately equal to the median personal income of the American worker. Now, throw that out. That's silly symbolic stuff. But what this indicates is something, folks, that we have got to face. If we are serious about this, fooling around the margins on all this spending isn't going to get it done. A 2% tax cut here or a 3% tax variation over there, not going to fix what's wrong. Genuine, big spending cuts are the only thing that is going to bring us back into some semblance of ideas. Now, these are not really Ron Paul's ideas. They are ours. On this program, I myself, El Rushbo, have suggested freezing spending at 2008 levels, and I said we had enough. In fact, I said, you guys are Democrats, you're running around and you're talking about how great the Clinton years were. Let's freeze, let's take spending back to that level. You said Clinton produced a boom, let's go back to those years. Let's do that. So Paul is stealing that idea. Cutting the EPA, we've long been an advocate of this. Eliminating whole bureaucracies. But nobody on our side's ever really seriously proposed it, and Ron Paul's going to.
Well, somebody's got to talk reality to the population. I mean, people don't realize that. I mean, these guys burned through, what, $250 billion the day after they signed the deal in August?
More than that. Obama went, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's true. But even we raised the debt ceiling by $2 trillion, and it's almost gone now.
Yeah, so are we going to make it to January 2013?
No. And the super committee is now working on trying to come up with $1.5 trillion in cuts. If they don't, we got to cut defense $500 billion.
Well, you know, these people they've written leases. They have spent this money, and they're counting on this money for, you know, into the future here. There's going to be major disruptions, which we need. We need to do it. But it's going to be painful, and I think our candidates need to be discussing this and talking reality to the American people.
Well, they might. Ron Paul's going to put it forward. It's, the thing here is that, and I think most everybody knows this now. I think when I say most everybody, I'm talking about people like you and people in this audience and who are paying attention. We know that little chunks here and little chunks there are not going to make a dent in the problem, that it has to be serious. Now, Snerdley's in there yelling at me. If you do what you just suggested with Paul, so there's going to be rioting in the streets. There's rioting in the streets now. And there's going to be more rioting in the streets because that's part of the program here. And next up, there are going to be race riots, I guarantee. And the race riots are part of the plan that this regime has. That's next. You'll note that everybody's talking about how white organized Wall Street is. Well, didn't take long for them to do the Martin Luther King thing yesterday. You just watch and wait till these two things get melded, which they will. The more chaos and instability, the better. I'm not predicting it. But if it happens, I wouldn't you don't count me as one who's surprised, is what I'm saying here. But you and I both know that, like Romney has a 59-point program. It may be a good program, but it's not what's needed if we are going to actually save the country and preserve it as it has been for all of us since we were born. We've called for 10% tax cuts across we've done everything that Paul is suggesting, that he's going to, I guess, suggest officially in his, in the next debate or whatever. We've called for it on this program, but he will be the first candidate to actually do so. It'll be interesting to see how they react to this. What do you think, Snerdley? Too drastic. We can't do they might try to ignore it. Depends on how the media, I think, is going to love this as an opportunity to show everybody is kooks. So nobody's going to want to agree with it since it comes from Paul. But still, it's the EPA. I mean, it needs to be dialed back fast and big time, folks. The EPA has become its own little fiefdom. The EPA can put you in jail. And the FCC is getting close. And all of this is by design. Look at this, more than 100 people charged in a massive New York City theft ring. And this is not organized Wall Street now. They're going to get involved in that later. That's all part of the grand plan.